Wow.
People are being,
No, go ahead. Go, please continue.
I was just going to say, I mean, people, it's like Jefferson said, first through the process of inflation and then through the process of deflation, they're going to take away all the land and resources, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, the corporations that have grown up around these central banking institutions are the ones that are able to take their profits, and when they lose money, pass it on to a government, which is separate from the banking cartel. See, the Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express.
So,
it's a corporation, a private corporation. So,
what is it that we're not doing in this debate as we talk about bailouts and rescuing the economy? Is there something that's not being addressed that should?
Oh, everything that should be addressed is not being addressed. Like the fact that this process of bailouts and going off Bretton Woods in 1971, all of that is driving this. We created this mess 100% through the institution of government. And, from getting away from the Constitution and Congress being the one to coin money, we allowed for private corporation to do that. And so every facet of this disaster that's going on is being ignored, and we're looking at the pseudo issues that we've been fed for forever. People talk about, look at these GM and Ford guys flying their private jets to testify in front of the Senate. It's just like with AIG having the $400,000 party when they're getting bailed out. The reality is, who cares? It doesn't matter. The real issue is, how have we gotten to a point in the free world, in the United States of America, where we're scared to let people fall flat on their face? I mean, it's that very dynamic that has made us the greatest country in the world, and we're willing to sell it down the river just so that we can feel, comfortable.
Josh, hold that point. We're coming back, and we're going to take your calls at 733-5620. Don't go away.
Now, the Armstrong-Williams Show continues. If phone lines are busy or you are listening to a delayed broadcast of today's program in your city, you can always contact Armstrong via email to info@armstrongwilliams.com. Once again, here's your host, Armstrong Williams.
Josh, Barnard, I was planning to say goodbye to him at the end of the segment. Because I wanted to just talk to the callers, but he said something that struck a chord with me, and I'm not exactly sure what his intentions were when he made this statement, but it's something that really resonated, and I'm wondering if it resonated with you. And his quote was, "A right for people to fall flat on their face." In other words, one of the things that has made this country great at one time, has separated us from everyone else, is that people can fail. People can succeed. People can go out here and have as many babies out of wedlock they want. There's a price for it. They can go out here and commit crimes. There's a price for it. You can restrain your behavior, study hard, have discipline, work ethic, and there's a price for it. In anything, there's a good price, there's a bad price. But, the government seems to get involved in this social engineering where we think we can take better care of people than they can take care of themselves. Sometimes people need to fail. Sometimes people die in failing. Sometimes people screw up. Sometimes we need to abandon people. Terry Giles and I spoke about this yesterday. And if we're going to do this with people, how are we going to set the example if we're talking about this rugged individualism, if we're going to allow corporations, once they hit hard times, and don't want to struggle anymore and run out of money, they can run into the nanny government, and the government can wet nurse them out of their situation. So either we're going to return to the fact that, look, you dug the hole, so lay in it. And I absolutely agree with that philosophy. And that's what I wanted to center this discussion around in the last half hour. Don't people have a right to fail? So what if GM and the auto industry goes belly up? I mean, if you talk to some people, they're always in an economic crisis. They're always in a struggle. But it doesn't mean that they don't have principles, that they sacrifice their integrity, that they compromise their moral compass. It's just that people struggle. People struggle all the time. But why do we think that somebody owes us something, ensure us that we don't struggle, as Josh said, fall flat on our face? Josh, how do we get to this point And the line is open at 733-5620. And how do we change the mentality, not only of just individuals, but of corporations who believe that when things are tough, that the government can be there to throw them a lifeline?
Well, it's interesting. I think that those are two separate deals. The corporate issue I'm kind of conflicted on, because I believe that our government created an environment of malinvestment where automakers decided to ramp up, say, Hummer production to unbelievable levels because there's so much fake credit available, because the government allows the Federal Reserve just to pump this credit out there. So in a way, yes, there's malinvestment and even some malfeasance, but it's a little different thing than at the individual level. At the individual level, my theory is that we got to this point because our elected officials are only rewarded for one thing, and that is to be elected and reelected. Winning elections, essentially. That's what they're rewarded for. And to do that, when you have a bunch of uninformed people that are watching, entertainment television and sitting around, doing whatever people do these days in America and all over the world for that matter, they want to hear from these politicians that the government can control things like the economy. They want to hear that the government can protect them and give them health care and do all these things. And they don't understand the real science, which is, natural observable law, God's law. And in my opinion, I happen to be a Christian, so I believe it's the design of God. But you can look at it however you want. There are certain rules on this planet that man cannot overcome with legislation or otherwise. And people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the guy say, well, I'm going to give you a $5,000 rebate for health care. I'm going to cover you in a universal health care. I'm going to get you your job back. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Let's go
to government.
Okay, We're going to come back to you, Josh. Lee, you have a comment for Josh. Go ahead. Thank you for calling.
Thanks for taking my call, Mr. Williams. In reference to GM, it makes me think about when I came here to South Carolina, my job had filed, my company had filed Chapter 11. And what was happening, the writing was on the wall because we started losing so much business to our competitors. Every time I would go out to work, I was taking a machine out of one of our stops. And finally, one day, they said they was filing Chapter 11, and I got laid off. And so what I'm saying, same thing with GM. I believe that if they were to go out, somebody else would pick them up for pennies on a dollar. The program still would go on. You hear the argument that they're not making good cars and big gas guzzlers. I've traveled a little bit, and I seen a car when I was out overseas. I went to one of the islands of Bahamas, and the guy said they won't sell a car like that in the United States. It's too good on gas. And it looked good. It didn't look ugly at all. It didn't look like no little old Matchbox. It looked like a nice sporty car. Guy said, like 3-cylinder. I would buy it.
Sure.
Well, he said they won't sell it in the United States. So I think they should let them go.
Exactly.
Let it go how, I believe somebody will pick them up for pennies on a dollar, and the program still will go. And it's like a saying, one monkey won't stop no show.
That's the beauty of the real free market and real natural law, is that it regulates itself like that. If they're making, cars that guzzle gas and aren't what the American people want, then they either reformulate very quickly or they go out of business, and the next guy hops in and takes that huge billion-dollar market share down. And we're not allowing for that. We're not allowing for the malinvestment to be realized. We're not allowing for it to be liquidated. We just print money out of thin air, sell bonds against it 30 years down the road so our grandchildren will be enslaved, and we act like it's no big deal and that somehow it's going to work and it's going to supersede the law of nature.
The thing about it is, like a lot of people say, myself being a working man, everybody gets bailed out for our big business except little guy. I often tell my sister that she's kind of got involved in politics because Obama was running for president. I said, I've been following politics for a long time, over the years. And I said, Susie, they always bail out the big guy. The little guy, forget about it. By the time they get around to him, he'll be finished. By the time they do get to the little people that's losing their house, they be out on the street. So it seems like that's the way how it always is. And, once you know and accept it, you just got to hopefully not to fall in that hole. Because like I said, I'm balancing my own budget in my own house. I'm not depending on nobody, none of the promises that McCain had made or Obama making to change my life personally. And I feel sorry for those who got so much expectation for the promises that he made, but I'm trying to make my own dreams and promises come true.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much for calling, Lee, and listening.